the executive director of the newly launched Pinpoint Policy Institute. We're going to talk about the new jobs report, unemployment rate, Bidenomics in general. And Gordon, we really appreciate you being here with us this afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Because this is your first time, just give us the quick introduction of yourself and your organization, the Pinpoint Policy Institute, and what you guys are all about.
Great. Thanks so much. So I'm the executive director of Pinpoint Policy Institute. We launched about 2 months ago. We're a nonprofit policy research organization, and our mission is essentially to promote and defend the basic building blocks of American prosperity. So the way I see it is the U.S. has a great story to tell. We're the largest economy in the world, and we deliver the highest standard of living to its citizens compared to other major economies. Now, for sure we've got some challenges, but when I look around the world, I see what we do in the United States, and I want to keep it going. I want to build on the prosperity that we have. And so when I look to, I look to the left, look to the right. The way I see it is I got clowns to the left of me. And
Jokers to the right.
Right. And so,
boy, that's a fact.
My lane is, my lane is to, hopefully defend what works here.
Yeah. So I love to hear that because there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of things that you could point to, damage that's been done to our economy, mistakes that have been made. But America's role on the world stage, being the largest economy and being still the most powerful economy in the world, is something to be proud of and something to, as you said, promote and try to build upon. In general, I want to get into some of these specifics in a minute here, but in general, what direction have we been going on the world stage, particularly, if you watch the media, depending on whatever channel you're turning on and listening to, under Donald Trump, it was great. And then Joe Biden flushed it down the toilet, or Donald Trump was a mess and Joe Biden's trying to clean things up. You never really get any specifics, and you're not really, you never know where the truth is. So in your opinion, what's the truth about the United States economy in general, big picture, over the last two presidencies?
Sure. So one of the benefits of my job is that I try to focus on the policies themselves, and there's plenty of people who focus on the personalities and the politics. So I look at what are the policies that we're talking about and what are their effects. And so over the last several years, I think both presidents have variously at times gotten a little too enamored of the government, and the deficits have grown substantially under both, a lot more debt, under both presidents, and as they're campaigning for this office, both of them at times, and it varies, of course, look to government for some solutions when I think that the private sector, when I think markets, are actually the right forum for actually keeping our economy going. And, we've had a lot of challenges. But I don't look to government as the solution to those challenges.
And that is not something that is just a pure personal opinion. Isn't that what history tells us? So, Gordon, I'm a big libertarian. I'm a big believer in the free market. I'm a big believer in letting people innovate. I don't want to deregulate to the point where we're destroying the earth, but I also don't want to, as you mentioned, rely on government's permission or mandates or whatever regulations or whatever it is to control things. I feel like the best, not only the best things that happen for the economy, but the best things that happen to save the planet. Somebody will create a cleaner way to power buildings and automobiles and things like that, and be able to not only clean up the planet but make a bunch of money off of their great invention. That's the way it's supposed to work. And so my question is, my point is that what you just said is not just a personal opinion. Isn't that what history tells us, that if we allow capitalism to work, if we allow human innovation to thrive, that is when we do our best for the economy and basically for the planet?
Absolutely. And as you say, history is a great guide here. As we've learned, government is jealous of its power. Once government develops a new authority, develops new power, it never gives it back. One of the most important accomplishments under the Trump administration was slamming the brakes on the administrative and regulatory state. So under President Obama, they imposed upwards of $900 billion in regulatory burdens through executive agencies. Under Joe Biden, already it's well over $1 trillion. Under Trump, it was about $40 billion. Now, he slammed the brakes on the growth of the regulatory state, but none of those regs on net went away. The best you can do is stop new ones. So everybody who accuses conservatives of being for deregulation, I'd say if only. Even when the president is doing some pretty extraordinary things on the regulatory state, all he's doing is stopping the accrual of new red tape.
We're talking to Gordon Gray. He's the executive director of the Pinpoint Policy Institute, and let's start getting into some of these specifics and these things that are happening right now. Katie, I know you had a question.
Gordon, I never know how to feel whenever we get a new jobs report. Sometimes they're very lousy. Sometimes they're a little bit uplifting, but I never really feel a positive reaction whenever we look at these jobs reports. I'm reading right here in front of me from Fox Business, U.S. job growth jumping by 272,000 in May, while unemployment unexpectedly rises. Can you kind of break up what those two things mean for us?
Yeah, happy to. So it's first important to remember that the jobs report is actually a report on two different surveys. So there's what's called the payroll survey and the household survey. And the two stats that you just cited there, one comes from the payroll survey. That's the Labor Department basically polls 666,000 businesses and essentially asks them, have you added any new employers or new employees? What are you paying them? A number of questions basically on their labor practices. It's a much more reliable, robust survey compared to that second survey, which is the household survey. And that's a survey of individuals and households. And it basically asks them, were you working last week? Are you unemployed? And questions like that. The unemployment rate comes from that survey. And so because you're getting two different sources of information, sometimes those two surveys can tell very different stories. Now, in this case, the payroll survey did show that we added about 270,000 new jobs. On the household survey front, the unemployment rate went up largely because about 250,000 people stopped looking for work in the month of May. So that is the main cause of why the unemployment rate ticked up by about 0.1 percentage point.
And Gordon, a lot of the knocks on any job growth that can you hear me? Are you there?
Hello?
Gordon can't hear me?
Gordon, can you hear us?
Huh.
Hello?
You want to try to get try to
reconnect
reconnect with Gordon because I want to ask him another question about the unemployment. Luckily, we heard everything that he had to say there, but and I know one of the big knocks on any job growth that we have seen in the Biden administration is usually chalked up to, or not chalked up to, but one of the big knocks is that it is either low-paying or part-time jobs, and or the fact is, as Gordon just mentioned, the people just stop looking, and therefore they fall off the unemployment stats altogether. We're going to try to get Gordon back on the line here. Again, Pinpoint Policy Institute. You can learn more by following them at pinpointpolicyinstitute.org. And I believe we got Gordon back on the line. Gordon, we could hear you the entire time. So we got your entire message and your entire answer there. You just couldn't hear us when we tried to ask our next question. So I apologize for that, but
not at all.
We got it back here. And I was just going to ask you to follow up on what you're talking about with the jobs numbers. One of the big knocks on one of the big knocks from conservatives or from Republicans or whatever the other side of the aisle, however you want to say it, on any job growth that has been reported during this Biden administration is that either what you had just mentioned, the numbers are due to people not looking for jobs anymore, therefore they fall out of the equation altogether, or that a lot of those jobs have been low paying and or part-time jobs. Are those knocks on Joe Biden and his unemployment record valid in your opinion?
There's some nuance there. So there have been significant there has been significant wage growth. But when we look at the over time, so that tends to push back against that. But then, for example, when we look at the most recent jobs report, most of the jobs, private sector jobs that were in that report, were in areas that see a lot of government subsidization. So the leading category for job growth in May was in education and healthcare. And this is private education. So a lot of doctors' offices and hospital jobs. So an area where we're seeing a lot of government involvement and a lot of government spending. And so that's one of those categories of job growth where you could say, I'm not sure if this is really reflective of a free market economy at work. Probably the second biggest category in job growth in the May survey was government. So government jobs from federal, state, and local was probably the second leading category in that jobs report. So, there's nuance in all of these things, but when we look at May, it wasn't sort of business and professional services that was really leading the charge there, or on the goods producing front. There was growth, but it wasn't particularly blockbuster.
And one more question. We've only got a couple minutes left here with Gordon Gray, and this is probably not a fair question with only a couple minutes left. So maybe this will be also our jumping off point for our next conversation. I hope we can get you back on sometime very soon. But a term, a word that we have heard a lot and are going to hear a lot more throughout this election season, I would like to, I think a lot of people don't understand, and I don't even think the person who created it understands. Gordon, what the hell is Bidenomics?
When I think of Bidenomics, here's what I think about. I think about basically public subsidies, so spending taxpayer dollars on private activity with a lot of strings attached. And what that's doing is involving the regulatory states. So now you have multiple federal agencies that are telling businesses what to do. Unfortunately, on the other side of that equation is now, you see this in Washington, a lot of businesses are lining up for their little piece of the pie. There's a lot of money floating around that's coming from Washington, and businesses are lining up for their little bit. And I think in some instances they may regret some of the red tape that they're buying into.
Oh, yeah, I would say there could be a lot of regrets coming towards a lot of people as we go through the rest of this election year. But there's going to be a lot to talk about, and really appreciate Gordon Gray joining us from the Pinpoint Policy Institute. Gordon, like I said, I hope we get a chance to get you back on sometime soon to continue the conversation. In the meantime, if people want to learn more about Pinpoint Policy Institute, you in general, what are all the best ways that they can learn more about the organization and what you guys are working on? Website, social media, all that good stuff.
That'd be great. Thanks so much. We're at pinpointpolicyinstitute.org.
Perfect. Great stuff. Pinpointpolicyinstitute.org. Best place to go to get all of that information. And Gordon, again, hope to have you back on again sometime very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.